Now, 9 days out from the same-sex marriage referendum, do you know where you stand? Well, as the campaign heats up and reaches its closing stages, both sides are doubling up on communicating their messages to the general public. Joining me now to discuss this and much more, we're delighted to welcome the Taoiseach Enda Kenny to the studio. Good morning, sir. You're very welcome. Before we get to that, the story that broke yesterday, and it's particularly appropriate or it's of the moment, given that the Minister for Health is meeting the parents of who lost their babies in Portlaoise. You probably know about it, the Cavan Hospital baby death, an emergency C-section. Now, that's the fourth in 30 months, Taoiseach. And it's looking like a very similar pattern to Portlaoise. Now, we know what the HIQA report concluded about Portlaoise. And I have to ask you, I mean, how does this keep happening? Not necessarily on your watch, but on this government's watch.
Well, the first thing to say is I've just heard of the tragic news from Cavan of the death of another baby. And I think we should empathise with the mother and the parents in this case. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions here because I do not know what happened in the sense of not having the facts, and they're now being investigated by the HSE. But I do think that arising from the HIQA report into Portlaoise, clearly there are implications for maternity services throughout the country. I think it's absolutely critical, Mark, that the outcome of the tragedies in Portlaoise, and those parents are to be commended for their courage in following this thing through. The HIQA report is completely independent, completely objective, has set out 8 recommendations, all of which have been accepted by Minister Varadkar and the HSE to be implemented. He's actually going down there this morning to meet the hospital staff and to meet those parents. You see, you've got to have the patient to be the centre of the issue here, of the service being delivered. Now, in Ireland for a long, long time, you've had a facility in respect of nurses and doctors for disciplinary action for incidents that might occur over the years, but you have had none in respect of management. And what HIQA have identified here are management issues. So what you've got to look at now is what do you have to do so that expectant mothers, in the case of maternity and midwifery sections, are absolutely happy that the level of service that they get can be the best that it can be, and that you don't have occasions where babies lose their lives, which is such a tragedy for everybody. I mean, and as I say, in empathising with the Cavan mother and parents, I don't obviously know the... No, I
understand, and it is a department, and you have a minister, a very capable minister, looking after that, but the fact of the matter is that there are women in that maternity unit in Cavan this morning who are looking and thinking, should I be in this hospital? Am I safe in this hospital? Yeah. And they will know from the news that HIQA said they couldn't conclude that the services in Portlaoise were safe. Yes. So how do you reassure people that the HSE and what it's doing is actually fit for purpose?
Well, I think you've got to implement the recommendations of the HIQA report, which are designed to provide that level of comfort, security, competence and safety for expectant mothers.
The HIQA report, by the way, which the HSE fought tooth and nail to stop being published.
But I think the important thing here is that the HIQA have been completely independent. They're the authority. They've set out their recommendations, the first of which is a patient advocacy group to be set up, a director of midwifery in every maternity unit, and a list of other issues there that will bring the service nationally, regionally and locally to the highest standard and the highest level. In general, Irish maternity services have always been very safe. There are these tragedies, and the fact of the matter arising from the HIQA report in Portlaoise, parents should not have been treated the way that they were. How can you say to a mother who's lost a baby, look, stop crying? This is not Ireland.
And do you think the people who did that and treated her like that should be sanctioned? Do you think they should remain in situ?
Well, the HIQA report sets out here management responsibility and incompetence in these cases. You've got to deal with this now. As I said, the tradition always was, well, it's either resources or staff, medical or whatever. Now there's an analysis here of management in the case of Portlaoise, which clearly has implications for every maternity unit around the country, where we want to see where that level of service is at the highest competency that it can be.
I do understand that this is broke overnight, and it is not your brief, and I'm sure Minister Varadkar will be talking to you more about it through the course of the coming days.